Well, my first question was going. Oh, thank you. My first question was simply going to be, how is everyone going with the Hebrew alphabet?
Slowly.
Slowly?
Very
Slowly. But I can see a pattern emerging.
Can you tell us more about that, Heidi? What pattern do you see?
Just with the silent letters, I can work out what the silent letters are, and the ones where they have the dot and how
Yes.
the letters change sounds, like say, gotta remember now, bet and vet. So
Yep.
I have to hook it in my, like, bet ball, vet void of ball.
Yeah.
So that's how I sort of remember.
Beautiful. The dot is a hardening of the sound.
Hardening of the sound. Yeah.
So you go from for bait, it goes from vet, like a vet, to a be. But you actually think about your mouth is actually quite a similar movement. It's just the it's the hardening.
Right.
The. Yeah.
The.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone got any questions, any worries, anything, any little things with the alphabet or that they'd like to ask before we jump into some more Genesis?
I just want to ask a question, if that's all right.
Please.
Not about the alphabet so much. I've found some great YouTube videos that have really helped.
Great.
But those 5 words, the say, be, all, sun, God, those are the 5 words for week 1?
Yes.
And some of them, I guess it's just understand. I was trying to learn the keyboard and kind of practice them so I could recognize them and everything. And some of them just, the way they're spelt and the way we were learning the alphabet, I still couldn't understand the pronunciation. I found that really difficult to understand that. Is that something that comes with time?
It is something that comes with time, and there is a reason why they don't necessarily have the vowel pointing underneath them, because you're looking at the base, the root of it, rather than looking at the modifications that the pointing makes. Okay. So, so you've got Amar, so Aleph, Mem, and Resh.
Yep.
That's the root for the verb to speak. But depending on the pointing, so the little modifications with the vowel sounds, that will give you clues as to whether you're looking, what mood or tense you're looking at. And then there'll be prefixes and suffixes that will help you understand that as well. So rather than looking at the pointing and all the options, we look at the root, so that if you see the root, you learn to recognize that, and then you recognize the things on top, which are the modifications. Does that make sense?
So is it best at this point just memorize what they are and try not to overthink?
Try not to overthink it. If you would like something to work on, if you want something a little bit more concrete in terms of your sound, the default position is that we look at them with the vowels or the pointing for third masculine singular. So like he said. Yeah. And that's simply because third masculine singular is the first verb conjugation you learn, because most of the narrative in the Old Testament is he said, he did.
Yeah.
And then we have she and they and things. But that third masculine singular is like the base. And that's what we use to learn from. So if you, like for Amar to say, you basically put 2 A's underneath, 2 comets. So you'd have it, and I'm trying to work out how to use let's see if I can, So no, Greg hasn't made me a co-host. Oh, you did? Ooh,
I did,
thank
because
you.
when your screen popped up like this, I could edit you.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm on the web browser, and that doesn't want to let me use the whiteboard.
Don't worry. I don't want to spend too much time on my question. It's all good. It's all good.
Does that help a little bit, Felicity?
It does. I had to find a web interpretation Hebrew to English in order for me to understand the pronunciation. And it took me a while. I had to learn to type the Hebrew in order to put it in the translation, in order for it to be said in Hebrew. So it took a little while, but it was a very good exercise because it's made me understand the keyboard and the translator on Word and everything. So it's pretty good. So it's all good. I'll just I will step back and just memorize them.
That's okay.
Thanks.
Greg, would you mind popping up Genesis 1:1? Let's look at bara.
And the other thing we might be worth doing at some point in the next 50 minutes or so is actually to run over vocab items.
Yes, absolutely. I thought what I'd do is just ask for questions and we go vocab and then jump back into Genesis 1:1. If that's all right.
Zoe, how important is it to actually learn to pronounce the Hebrew words?
That's $1 million question there, Helen, because biblical Hebrew is not a spoken language.
Exactly.
The focus is certainly for Intro to Biblical Languages, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, is the recognition of the vocabulary and the understanding of how language functions. So I'm a French teacher, so I always think it's saying it is important. But like I said to you, Helen, I just jumped onto YouTube and listened to a recording of Genesis 1:1 because my pronunciation is not great. But I know my language and I can use my Bible software to understand it. But I wouldn't be able to sit down and read the Old Testament out fluently. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It
Makes me feel better too.
It makes me feel a lot better because
I think when you look at the script, it's helpful to have a sense, that shape is a B sound.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a soft V, other times it's a B, but it's the same sound, just one soft. Like V is a soft B, as it were. And P and F, the same sound. It's just where you do it in your mouth and how fricative it is, and so on. So it's all going to sound like Greek if we could upset this for a moment, for a little while, because none of it is yet kind of sunk in at the point where it's just intuitive. But after a while, even if you're not exactly sure how to stress the syllable and what you do when there's two shavars next to each other, and you can still look at the word and in your head you might even be going B, R, Aleph, Shin, Tau, whatever. But hopefully your brain soon will start going B, R, Shi, T, and so on. So you'll start getting a sense of how the shapes link with sounds. The same thing, of course, applies in Greek. Initially, it's just Greek. And then after a while, you start to get comfortable that shapes, it'll become, and the more we do things like Zoe's about to do, looking at a sentence, working through it, you'll become familiar with the shape and the link between the shape and the sound. So let me change. I put Genesis 1. I needed, of course, to put Genesis 1:1 for now to make sure it just gives me the first verse. Let's turn off the English for now, and we'll just have the Greek and the...
Fantastic. So I'm just going to go back to Felicity's question very quickly there, and looking at the second word, which is a bait, a resh, and an aleph. That is bara. Okay. When you're learning the triconsonantal root, the shoresh, you just look at bait, resh, and aleph. Those would be your three consonants. Underneath, you'll see underneath the bait is the pointing, which is an A sound, and under the resh is the same. That's an A sound. That is your stock standard he created. Third masculine singular. That is a pattern of vowels that you'll see on most verbs that indicate that the person doing the verb, doing the action, doing the creating is third person, masculine and singular, therefore he. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it helps to put pointing underneath your shoresh to help with your pronunciation and your repetition and your knowledge, I suggest what you do is you do the, like here, bara, and that gets you back to that basic he created. And then that helps you with that. Okay. Are there any other questions before we jump back into Genesis 1:1? Any other questions about vocab or what is this gobbledygook? Yes, Chris.
Last week you talked, and you just did it again, you talked about triconsonantals and consonants with two words with two consonants. Could you maybe explain that a little bit?
So triconsonantal means three consonants. And most roots, most words in Hebrew come from a 3-consonant basis.
All right. And some of them have two.
Some of them have two, but there are fewer than them, and there's lots of reasons for that, which gets a bit finicky at times.
Yep.
And some of them look like two, but they're really three. Because if you've got two letters that are the same, over time with spoken and written words, people don't bother writing the second letter because it's a duplicate of the third letter. So, yeah, you get that kind of stuff happening as well.
Yeah.
But general rule, Hebrew words are based on 3 consonants as a general rule.
As a general rule.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's sort of that 80-20 rule, that 80% of them will be, and then the other ones will be slightly different for various reasons. Okay. Any other questions about the vocab before we jump in?
Just in terms of looking at the Hebrew, I could turn off some of the superscripts, but I can't turn off the cantillation marks or I might have even turned off the cantillation marks, but in addition to the vowels, there's a few other little shapes underneath the words, which my eyes just ignore because I have no idea what they mean. But and they're to do with saying this is the end of the clause, or this is the end of the sentence, things like that. Remember, none of this is part of the original text. It's been added by the Masoretes and other scribes to help Hebrew Jewish people read the Tanakh, the Torah, in the synagogue. So a lot of these are just helps to making sense of it when you're reading it out loud in synagogue. So for up here for bara, it has the kamets, but it has a little left angle, right angle thing there. It's not a vowel. So just focus on those 8 or so vowels that we've started to learn. If there are other squiggles there, just as a general rule, ignore it.
Yeah. And if it feels like I'm ignoring it, there's a reason.
So the pointers underneath don't change the sound. It's just telling you the tense.
The pointing, as in the vowels, yes, they change the sound. But the and it tells you the tense as well.
Do you know how many of these what they're called, deglash, commas, accents, how many there are to learn?
Okay, so there's a difference between pointing, that's your vowel sounds, we will learn those. Then the accents are punctuation, basically.
Right.
And as Greg said, they're clauses and punctuation. And Greg, I don't think we're going to look at accents at all, are we?
I never have.
That's all right. We don't have to.
Yeah, no. So I'll tell you.
So it's just the pointers we're looking at.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So the three dots or 2 dots or whatever, are they pointers or accents?
On that third word that Greg's got highlighted?
Yeah. I mean, that sort of changed the sound probably of
that's pointing. That's a vowel sound.
So it's changed the sound.
Yeah, yeah.
So all dots are pointers.
Yes, pointing.
Pointing to something.
Yeah. So under that, so we're looking at the third word in Genesis, which is Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and under the Aleph, all of that pointing there is a vowel sound. And then on the Lamed, there's the point up the top. That is a vowel sound.
Yeah.
And under the Hate, there's 2 symbols. We're only going to look at the point in the middle, which is a Hirek Yod. It's an I, a long I sound. The funny little wishbone shape, that is an accent, and we're not going to look at that.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can.
Could I just ask a question? Oh, no.
Yeah, sure.
I was going to ask a question. It was about accents, about the dots, sorry, the pointers.
Pointing, yeah.
Pointing, is it always at the bottom? No.
No, most of them are. I think if I remember.
Yeah, there's one there. I just realised there was.
It's just the O
one on
sound.
top of the hay. Yeah.
That is actually matched to the Lamed though, to the L.
Ah.
So it's
but it's on top of the hay.
I think that's just a.
Trust me, it's immediately after the Lamed.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Because of its positioning, it's actually linked to the Lamed.
Okay, so always remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all.
Yeah, excellent. So in each of these words, reading through, I'm going to read this out. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of those words have pointing, like a vowel sound, a vowel modification. And all of them have accents, which is the punctuation structure stuff. We will look at the pointing, but not the accents. Okay. All right. So if we look at Genesis 1:1, I'm going to do similar to what I did the other night, but I'm going to add the vowels in to help us with the sounds. Okay. And like Greg said, and I think it was Helen asked the question about speaking. Speaking is not essential, but it's helping with our recognition. Okay, so if you've got your accordance open, it'd be a good idea to have that up on your screen as well, unless you can see this clearly and you're happy with what's on Greg's screen. So our first word, we have bait, and underneath it, it is what we call a shava, and it's a short sound. And so that, rather than being bait as a consonant, is be. Can you hear that it's quite a short be? Okay. Our next letter, who can tell me the next letter? Or the next consonant after be? Bet.
Resh.
Resh. Yep. Rather than saying resh, we have the pointing underneath. This is the 2 dots side by side. That is an E sound, but it's a longer E. So it's re.
Ray.
Okay.
Do you still roll it?
Potato, potato. I'm a French teacher, so sometimes I roll stuff too much. Okay.
Ask a quick question.
Ray.
Yes,
Please.
Felicity.
How do you tell the difference between resh and dalet? They're very similar.
It's much, much harder. It's a flat line on the dalet, and it actually should be 2 movements, whereas your resh should be going in 1 smooth movement. Your dalet should be 2.
So you're looking for an angle there, are you?
Yeah,
it's
and
soft there on the corner.
Okay.
So the dalet actually should have
I can see it now. You've said it. I can see that angle as opposed to the resh, which is okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And in Matthew's gospel, when Jesus says, "Not one jot or tittle will pass away from the law until everything is fulfilled. Matthew 5:17, I think. The yod, the jot is the yod, because that's the smallest letter. And the tittle is the little bit that hangs over the end of a dullet and a towel. And up here, this little bit here.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what we call it, not on the meme, but certainly with the towel, there's a little bit that has to hang over. And if we did have a dullet, there'd be a little bit hanging over. And even on the bet, there's a little bit hanging over here.
Yeah.
And so when Jesus is saying not one jot and not one tittle, he's saying not even the smallest letter and not even the little tiny bump on the edge of a letter will disappear.
Yeah. And the Masoretic text is known for, again, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but for its consistency, correct?
Yes, the Masoretic text is remarkably consistent.
Yeah.
With our earliest next example, which is the Pentateuch scrolls from Qumran.
Yeah.
There's basically a 1,000-year gap, and nobody, after the Dead Sea Scroll people were captured by the Romans in 68 CE, nobody got a chance to look at those manuscripts until 1948. And when they did,
the jots and tittles were there.
Well, there's no dots and dashes in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They didn't point to Hebrew. That's from the Masoretic tradition. But the basic alphabetic text is remarkable. Now, there are a few bits and bobs that have fallen out, a couple of acrostic psalms where one of the verses dropped out, and we've been able to put it back into the Bible since 1948, because for the first time in 2,000 years, we actually had access to an earlier version of that passage.
Yeah, but the consistency is quite remarkable given the length of time in between. Okay, so there's one thing I have already missed in our first letter. The reason I know it's a bait instead of a v or vate is because of the point dot in the middle, the dagesh. Okay, so when I'm saying that, I know that it's a b sound. And then with the two dots underneath, the shava, I know it's a be sound. It's a short, very short sound. Then resh, again, with the sere is, rather than r or re, it's a ray. So you think about your short e and your short long e sounds. You've got like, or ben, or beat, be, bean. It changes the way your mouth moves. And this is what we've got. We've actually got more information in our pointing about how to say the word, or how they believe to say the word. What are you doing, Greg?
I'm trying to get the blue stuff out of the way.
Okay. So, be-re. Here we have the aleph, and it has no vowel on it. In the whole word, it sort of blends in this instance. Okay, so then we have our sheen. We know this because the dot at the top is on the right, so it's sheen and not seen. And here we have two markers underneath. Ignore the little sort of comma squiggle. We're looking at our single dot. Who remembers what vowel sound this is?
Rue. No.
Not quite.
I was making it up.
Not quite?
I have no idea what a one dot is.
I don't either. I can't remember.
Oh, the one dot at the bottom is an E sound.
It makes a sh sound.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the dot at the bottom.
Is it the oo?
No.
Is it the oo?
It's an I, but
shy.
Yep, but because it's in this instance, this I is linked to the yod afterwards. It's a hirek yod, and so it becomes long. Bereshit.
Could you say that again, Zoe? Sorry.
Bereshit. Okay, so it's an I. You could say it's like a long I, long E.
Is a single dot underneath any character always an I?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the single dot. Yeah.
I know. I'm just trying to find some rules.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like knowing the rules, isn't it?
Yeah, and the good news is this stuff is hard now because we're learning all the basic rules, but you get 2 words down and we've got it again. Okay, we've got the same vowel pointing again at the end of Elohim. We've got another single dot. So it's okay. We will revise it. Whee!
Could I just ask a question?
Please.
With the Aleph, what's the purpose of it being there if it's not going to make a sound?
Silent.
That is an excellent question. It can have vowel pointing on it.
But it hasn't.
It doesn't in this instance. No. It doesn't in this instance.
Down here.
There's something that,
It's basically it's like an apostrophe.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's
very short,
it's
guttural,
like a breathe mark almost, is it?
Bearish. Yeah.
Okay.
A breathing mark, but it's a letter which is basically unvoiced.
A marker. Yeah.
It's an unvoiced guttural sound. So we don't have these in English, but there are 2 of them in Hebrew. Lucky you. And when you try to copy them into English, I always forget which way it is, but one of them has an apostrophe going this way. The other one has an apostrophe going that way. And they're basically unpronounceable gutturals.
Yeah.
Very short, with no particular audio weight attached to them. Same as the Aleph, surprise, surprise. Alif, Aleph, Alif in Arabic. It's not actually a sound. It's just a stroke that you hang other sounds off if you want to, but you don't pronounce the Aleph because they're the same sort of language.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hangers.
And it's a bit of a placeholder or a coat hanger.
Okay.
Absolutely. And if you're transliterating, Greg's right, your Aleph you actually write as a superscript C. And then the ayin you write as a backwards superscript C. So you don't actually write A for transliteration of Aleph.
No, I've just put shh, no sound on my notes.
Yeah. So we've got this first word, bereshit. Okay? I'm going to go to the second word, which
Sorry,
is
can I ask a question?
Please.
So how do we know that the yod and the shin go together? What is the marker that tells us that? Or do we always presume when we see the yod? Am I saying the right one?
Yep. If it's coming directly after the vowel, that's the first clue. The second clue is that it's at the end of the word.
When you say coming directly after the vowel, so because we've turned the shin with an I with the dot under.
Yep, that's what that's after the vowel pointing, yeah.
So if the yod comes after a vowel pointing every time, then we're merging, we're ignoring the yod, or?
Well, the other clue is there any vowel pointing under the yod itself?
No.
Okay.
Like down here, okay, similar thing.
Yep.
This little short A, patak, goes with the yod to make the A sound. It's like the EY in English. If you see EY at the end of MONEY, you don't try and pronounce the Y. The Y just stretches the E out a bit. Okay. Whereas symphony, you pronounce the Y. Money, you don't pronounce the Y.
But you have that long sound.
Yeah.
So if you look at the first word, bereshit, and then the word that Greg highlighted just before, okay, both of them have a yod as the second last character. But in bereshit, there is no vowel sound underneath the yod, and the yod comes directly after the hirek, the I sound. So it is that lengthening. So I'm just say the last sound in that word, sheet, whereas in the next one, it's yim, because it's y, I, m. No, it's not im, it's yim, yim. The order is there, okay? So bereshit, and the second one is hashamayim, yim.
Ooh. Sorry, I've still got 2 more questions on that first
Yep,
word.
no, that's fine.
The 2 dots under the resh, what do they signify, sorry?
They are an E sound, a sere, and it's a slightly longer E.
Ray.
Like
so
a ray.
E sound.
Yeah,
long.
but think of A.
A.
Yeah.
Not
Bere.
E. Ray.
Sheet. And the A after the tav, what's that's a tav?
That's just
just a marking for accordance. That's nothing to do with actual.
I thought I turned those off.
Okay. It's not telling us anything about the language. It's more that there is something, some kind of note somewhere about it.
Strong.
Yeah, it's a little footnote or something, but I'm going to hide superscripts, and that's probably all I need to do. That might disappear. No, it's still there. Okay, whatever. Yeah, it's just like in a Bible, you have a footnote with something at the bottom.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to that second word. Okay, so we have seen all of these consonants before. We have a bait. We know it's bait because it's got a doubling. It's got the dagesh in the middle, or the hardening. We've got a resh and we've got an aleph. And they're actually in the same order as the first 3 consonants in the first word. But they are going to have a different sound because of this little T symbol underneath. Okay, so ignore the little square angle. But so instead of having be or re, this is bara. Okay, so it's an A sound, bara.
The little T is an A sound.
Yes, the little T is an A sound. Yes, well done.
Why can't the T be a T?
Even though we've got the A on the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because remember,
not an A on the end.
Oh yeah,
remember Greg said
on the end.
it's a guttural placeholder, and that's a good point. It's not bara, it's bara. So the A is the aleph is silent.
Okay.
So when the alphabet was nicked by the Greeks, the people in Phoenicia they were using aleph for this guttural sound. Greek didn't have a guttural sound that needed that letter, so they used it for their vowel A, as we still do. Okay, but it's not the letter A when it's in Hebrew. It is the letter A when it's in Greek.
Don't confuse them more.
That's why language is fun.
Yeah, it's great. So this is like banana, bara. Okay, it's the same stress on the consonants.
Can we just ask where that ra is coming from? Sorry.
From the resh.
All right, I got it. Yeah.
So beit and a bar, and then resh and the kamets, the a sound.
Is there Is there something in the resh, or is it my computer?
No, it's just Greg's
might be my cursor.
Oh,
yeah.
wiping.
Gives it that polished A sound.
Oh.
Yeah. So that one's a little bit simpler.
Right.
Okay. So again, but if we go back, the first 3 letters of Bereshit, or the first 3 consonants, are Beit, Resh, Aleph, which are the same 3 consonants as Bara, to create. But because of the pointing underneath, the sound changes in our pronunciation.
Yeah.
It also helps give that clue. When I see that, I see the those kamets, the little T things, the A sound, underneath bara, and I see 3 consonants, and that draws me immediately to the suspicion that that is a verb.
So a little T.
Well, it's the
is an A. I mean, sorry.
Yeah.
T shape, I should say.
Yeah, the T shape. Yep.
The T shape, which is an A, shows you that it's a verb.
It leads me to think, is this a verb?
Is it a verb?
Yeah. Is it a
Maybe
verb?
a verb.
So what Zoe said was, when she sees a 3-letter word, just 3 letters, nothing else yet on front or back, and it's got the kamets underneath it, or indeed the kamets patak underneath it, straight away you think, this is the root, and it's probably the verb form.
And it's probably he created, he said, he did, he whatever.
Okay.
Because that's our 3rd masculine singular. And if you look down, I'll go back to an accordance tool here. Okay, so this is really useful. Go to the bottom of Greg's screen. This is what we call the instant details. Can you see how there's that panel underneath? This is really, really helpful, because you will see the script that we have there, and then you will have the transliteration, which is what you can do in English to help you remember the sounds that come with the letters and the pointing. So you have a B, and then an A, and then an R, and an A, and then you see the little backwards, like a backwards C.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really helpful.
Yeah, that's excellent. I'm just going to grab something for you.
So it would be bara then.
Bara.
Sorry, it would be
bara.
Yeah, or
not
bara.
Bara.
Okay, we haven't covered this yet, but you tend to put the emphasis on the last syllable, unless there's a reason not to.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be different to English. Now, I don't have these in order anymore, but this is a system cards 500 box. And when I first studied Hebrew, I wrote everything out word by word. Okay, and I'm just going to take this up. You'll see in the black, it's the script, the letters. But can you see underneath in the red, I have a transliteration?
Yep.
So I have the H for hate, and then an E with a marking for the sere. So it's a longer E, it's an A sound. And then I have the final noon, the N. So for me, that helps me remember that is hen. And then on the back, I put the word, like it's a look, behold. And I put a little clue. And I'd put things about
they're like little spelling cards.
Yeah, basically. They were vocab spelling cards.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and look, it's, again, this is not necessarily the focus in Intro to Languages, is not to get too pedantic, because when I did this was Hebrew, straight Hebrew. Okay, so I'll give you another example. This is a verb. So this is ga'ar, all right? And I had a G, an A, my little guttural, another A and an R. And then on the back, so I put that in the 3rd masculine singular. That's your basic, your kamets and your patak.
Okay.
And then on the back, I wrote verb to rebuke. So that gave me my basic form. So that is like what you'd see for bara in Genesis 1:1. So if we go down to the accordance, back into instant details, you've got the text in the Hebrew script, and then you've got that transliteration, bara. If you jump over a little bit, you'll see the word in bold, verb. And then it will say what is kal katal. Don't worry about that for the moment. It will say third masculine singular.
So if I was to try and put my cursor down there, it would vanish, remember? But if I right-click on bara and go look up instant details, I showed you this the other night, and you may want it tomorrow with your quiz. Let me just say, maybe.
Hint, hint.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more.
Okay, now I can move it around and look at it more easily. I think, no, I can't, but I can copy it by clicking on the clipboard, and then I could paste it into a quiz or into an essay. Or okay.
Greg, why would my instant notes, it's not showing the word bara. It's showing the rest of the things you've got there.
You're dealing with an untagged Hebrew text then. Okay, sorry about that. So if you're using an untagged Hebrew text, you don't get all this stuff. So if you're using BHS without the T, you won't get all the tagging.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I need to find the tag one. Check it out. Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see on Greg's, he's got those details up. So it's got the script, bara. The rest of those little notes at the top will tell you the sort of genesis of the word. It'll tell you it's a verb and that the verb means to create. Then down here in the NRSV Strongs, it will give you your Strongs number, H being Hebrew, 1254, which in this instance is translated as created. Does that make sense?
There you go. I had to click back on the screen to make it disappear. So, for example, if just to demonstrate, if I were using Tanakh Hebrew Bible untagged, okay, still go to Genesis 1. It's the same Hebrew. It's all there. Even the little A is there. But now all I get is bara. That's the difference of a tagged text. See, all it's told me is the transliteration has turned those 3 Hebrew letters into 3 English letters and a couple of vowels. That's why we use a tagged text. Because if I go back to my tagged thing, as soon as I go on bara, I get the whole kit and caboodle.
But
And
Greg,
and
I'm
what
using...
if you don't have tagged text in your list?
You should do.
If you have,
I don't have BHS tagged. I've got other tags, but not
try
that.
Hebrew Bible tagged.
Okay, Hebrew Bible.
Hebrew Bible, and then it will have in brackets Biblia Hebraica tagged.
Well, Greg, I've got that tagged one, and I have exactly what you have down there, but I don't have the bara, the English word.
Nope, I don't have a Hebrew Bible, so I don't know.
so
I've got the Hebrew, the Hebrew, text.
Okay, so your text, all right. So you're using the MT for Masoretic text, something or other, ECNT, whatever.
No. I'm using the BHS tag.
I can't work out what's going on.
Is it a different version, or
if you're using BHS tag, you should be.
Well, I'm seeing all of that you've got, except having the English word there.
So you don't get the English word, or you don't get the strong number.
No, she's not getting the transliteration, but
I'm not getting bara, but I'm getting all the rest.
Different versions of, if we've all bought the same thing.
Well, that's what we tried. We tried to get everybody with the same thing. One of the wild cards here is that I've never bought the green academic collection because I have all that stuff already. Yes. And so I don't actually have the version of the BHS, which is in the green academic collection, which is what you all have. Yes. They wanted me to pay like $150 for that.
No.
Really?
No.
I don't want to do this. Okay, so I'll have to get back to them and see if there's a
So
word.
it's just the transliteration there that isn't there. The rest is all there that you have. It's all there except the bara word.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could do a screenshot or something and email it to me,
Yep.
rather than take up time in what's
Yep.
left of class.
Yep.
I'll try to respond to you by email. Yeah, this one's beyond my immediate.
I might have to go back to the people then, the people who sell it, because there really is nothing in there saying Hebrew Bible tagged or BHS tagged.
Yeah, well, I've already said I need to get back onto Accordance. The team. Yeah, see what's going on.
We might keep troubleshooting the Accordance stuff later, but that's just going back to those tools, because I remember part of the course is to help us use the Accordance properly. Let's get back into the basics of the Hebrew. So we've looked at those first two words again. Bereshit, bara. One we've looked at with the vowel pointing, which is our E sounds, and then a Hirek Yod at the end for that longer sound. And then the second word we've identified is most likely a verb based on it's got 3 consonants, nothing before it, nothing after it, and it's got the 2 kamets, which is our basic version of a verb. Our third word we'll go to, we did look at this the other day. We've got our aleph. Now here we have 5 pointings or 5 dots just to keep us guessing. That is hatef segol, and it's just a very short E sound, like eh. And then we have our lamed. Now our lamed does have a vowel pointing with it. It is up the top. It is not on top of the 8. It is linked to the lamed. And it is a cholem, which is what kind of sound? Do we remember?
Sorry, which letter are you looking at?
So I'm looking at the lamed, and I'm looking at the single dot, which is up.
The O?
Yeah, well done. The cholem is the O sound or the O sound. Okay.
Lo.
Yeah. So we have e, lo.
Lo.
E,
Lo.
yeah. Then we have our hate. And again, we have a hirek here. And we have a yod after it. How do we work out whether they're linked or not? What are some of those clues we talked about with Bereshit?
If it's a vowel?
Yep. So the yod is coming straight after the hirek pointing, the I pointing sound. And is there any vowel pointing underneath the yod?
A little dot.
No, look underneath the yod. Is there anything
to
change? No. So it's that lengthening of the hirek. There's no vowel sound to change the y itself. It's not a ya, yay, yo.
No.
It's a lengthening of the hirek. It's also, again, towards the end of the word. Okay? So we've got Elohim. Elohim. And because the mem is at the end, we have that closed mem, the final mem. Okay? And there's no vowel on that, so that's where it becomes, it's not him, it's him. If you listen to the 3 vowels we've got lo, him. Can you see, listen, they get longer. Lo, him. There is a distinction.
If the yod wasn't there, it would be Elohim.
Yeah, it'd be shorter. It'd be shorter. Okay.
Sorry, Zoe, can I just ask a question about the aleph? So the the 2 first dots on the right underneath are the representative of a short sound. Is that what you're saying? And then the 3 dots towards the left are an
it's a short E.
Short E, yeah. Okay,
yeah,
good. Thank you.
Because
so every time we see, sorry.
Yeah, that's a really excellent question, because you can see the 2 dots, one above each other, and then an A sound.
Yes, yeah, I think we had that somewhere else, didn't we?
I think it's actually in Genesis, in verse 2. I think it's there.
Every time we see those 3 dots, it's an E sound?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then with the 3 dots is an E sound, and with the 2 little dots just before it, it's a very short E sound.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's Elohim. So we've got Bereshit, bara, Elohim. And we're putting the stress on that him, that final sound. Now, we're on to our fourth word, which is one of our funny ones. It's only got 2 consonants to it. It's got an aleph, and it's got what sound underneath with the pointing, the 2 dots? What sound are we looking at?
An E?
Yeah, it's a sere, so it's an E. We would write it as an E in transliterating it into English, but it's an A sound. It's a longer, like hey. Okay, so we have, but there's no, it's like hey, but it'd be 8.
8.
So 8. And because we've got the tav at the end, it's 8. 8. And that, does anyone remember, I mentioned it on Thursday night, what that functions as?
And?
No, close.
I'm just thinking of French, actually, ET.
Yeah, it. It's what we call a direct object marker. So if you're looking at Greg's screen, he's got underneath that it's on your instant details.
Oh, it actually says ET, yeah.
Yep, it's a direct object. So
right,
direct object marker.
Sorry, how do we pronounce that?
Et.
Pardon?
No, not et. It's not French, remember? It's 8.
8.
Yeah,
8.
It's longer than the French and.
We're going to have this issue in Greek as well as Hebrew. Our English ears, and especially Australian ears, are not used to the idea that a long E is an A sound. That's true in Greek as well. The eta is a long E. When you say E long enough, it starts sounding like A. Like, hey, what you doing? Hey. Okay. So short E is segol is et. Or in Greek, it's epsilon, et. Long E is A, sere, or eta. So we'll have to get our head around the idea that we say long E, but it sounds to us like an A.
Yeah.
But it is an elongated E, and so it ends up sounding a bit like an A. It's just weird.
So if we look at those first 4 words, or the first 3 in particular, I'm going to read them out in English, but using the Hebrew word order. In beginning, created God. What do you notice about the word order so far?
Well, it's just like Greek. It's like Yoda. It's back to front, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it depends on what their all the rest of the information to how it's then constructed. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got different word orders of your subjects and verbs. Something that's difficult in Hebrew is you will have a verb like bara, which we can work out is 3rd masculine singular, but you may not always have the name of the subject. So this could read as, in beginning created the heavens and the earth. And we would be able to work out, in beginning he created heavens and earth, but who's he? So in this instance, we have Elohim, which we assume it links to the verb, but that's not always the case. And that's where in translation, we need to recognize one, our verbs, and whether it's masculine, feminine, singular, plural, and also looking at the words and trying to find the subject that matches. So we know that it's not the heavens or the earth that's created is doing the creating. They're not the subject. And that's for a couple of reasons, which I'm going to run through. I'm going to take 2 or 3 more minutes. I'm not going to stop slowly on the vowel sounds at the moment. So I'm at that 4th word. Greg, can you just highlight 8? Okay, so that's our direct object marker. So that tells me that the next word is not the subject. In this next word, we have ha. So we have a hate and a patak, ha. And then we have a shin.
Right.
And then a kametz, so sha. Ma, so we've got a mem and a patak, again, A sounds. And then I have a yod and the little dot beneath, and then a mem. Mayim. Okay, so I'm going to sound that word out. Hashamayim. Now, there is a reason why there is a little dagesh, a doubling in here, because it's linked to ha being the article the. So this word here, shamayim, is heavens. There's not always necessarily that doubling, but it's linked to the article hashamayim, the heavens, hashamayim. Now, one of the reasons I know that hashamayim is not the doing of the creating, doing of the bara, is first of all because it's got that 8 before it. The second thing is that it's plural. And the reason I know it's plural is it's got an im at the end. See the little pointing and then the mem? That's a clue, an indicator that it's plural. Like in English, we have S or ES. The next word, if we go down to the second line, sorry, I know I'm rushing through this bit. We have 2 words sort of joined in here. We have a ve, we've got a vav and a little shava, so ve, ve'et. So again, that direct object marker. And I know, again, that the next word is not the subject of this whole sentence because it has this 8 just before it. It has this direct object marker. And there's some other clues. Yes, Heidi?
Why does it have a the?
It's an and.
So where the other one was an this one is an and.
Yeah. Yes. So if we were writing this in English, we don't write the 8 down. We don't write in the beginning, God created the object marker of the heavens and the object marker of the earth. We say in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So whilst the 8 is written here and we say it, we don't necessarily translate that into English, into a word.
But why is it spelt with a V? there.
Because it's linking back to, it's the object of creation.
Oh, so when you've got a vav at the beginning of an et,
it's showing a continuation.
It's showing you linking back.
Yeah. So in this, if we've got 7 words in this sentence, we've got one verb, one action.
Okay.
How
am I going to remember all of this?
You're not even going to try. You're just going to float along.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't try.
Just let it go over you.
I do need to know this, though, what I'm asking, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just understanding language. And again, one of our challenges is we don't necessarily learn English grammar very well. So so far we only have one verb, bara, to create. We have one subject, Elohim, like one person subject, and we have 2 objects. The vav before the 8 tells us that the creating happens to the heavens and to the earth.
What does the 8 mean? Sorry?
It tells me that it's an object.
So it's not actually, there's no English equivalent. It's just a kind of.
So we say it in Hebrew. We don't translate the word 8 in English, but it helps us with our translation to know who's doing what in the sentence and who is receiving the action. We've got subject and object.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
So this is telling me that it's not the earth doing the act of creating, and it's not the heavens doing the act of creating. And the only thing left in the sentence that's capable of doing the act of creating is Elohim.
So does the object marker always come after the person doing the thing?
It'll come after the verb.
Yeah.
And it will link to and it will come directly before the object about which it's referring, or to which it's referring.
So we'll talk about, and we have to wrap up because I've actually
we do.
I've got an English lesson to teach at 5:15 just for the fun of it, because I teach international students how to improve their English. So I've got a lovely Persian lady waiting to speak to me at 5:15. But we'll talk a bit about this underlying issue. In English, we express subject and object mostly by word order. Now, if it's Yoda, we all get the joke and we go, oh, isn't that cute? He's like a 2-year-old. He's getting his word order mixed up. But in Greek and Hebrew, Yoda wouldn't have a problem because every word is structured in such a way that you know which is the subject and which is the object. However, as we'll see on Thursday night, when there's a verb to be with 2 nouns in the nominative case, which of them is the subject?
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a special trick for that you'll see on Thursday night. So you can play with the Jehovah's Witness when they come to your front door.
Yeah. So those are the clue that the earth did not create itself. The earth was the object of creation.
Yeah.
And the heavens were the object
That's
of
quite
creation.
important to know.
Yeah, again. And I know this seems finicky, but it will get easier, and it's understanding how language functions as much as anything.
Definitely.
And Hebrew is not just English written in secret code.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a different language.
Yeah.
And we've got a test tomorrow, is that right?
Yes.
You have.
Oh, good.
So
no, that's not sure. Well, that is on the quiz, actually, yes. But you've got
remember
6 a.m. tomorrow morning until midnight on Wednesday. But you only get one crack at it. You get 1 hour to do it.
Yeah. There is, of those 7 words, I'm going to read them out to you. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. There is one word.
You say it very well.
It's my party trick. They're like, what languages do you speak? I said, Hebrew. What is the word in there that you need to know for your quiz tomorrow that you can identify?
Elohim?
Elohim, well done.
Elohim. Is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Well, it
Nicely
sort of
done.
made sense to me that
Have a look at that list of 5 Greek, 5 Hebrew
Oh, I haven't
words.
looked at them yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And well, they're the words you're learning this week, because starting on Thursday, you'll start learning the next 10 words.
Oh.
Oh, good.
Oh.
And the
Good.
quiz
Why did I
next
do
week,
2 subjects at a time?
Wonderful.
okay, the quiz next week will test you on the second lot of 10 words.
Wonderful.
Oh.
Has that
I
been
always
helpful?
failed spelling at school.
Has that been helpful?
Yes, very.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Okay.
Thank
Zoe.
you.
Thank you,
I'm
Greg.
going to say
you.
goodbye because I have a 4 and a
goodbye.
7-year-old about to
Bye.
walk in the door, so it'll get a bit noisy.
Okay. Bye, folks. And I need to
Bye.
go.
Bye, Zoe. Bye, Greg.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Bye.